My good friend Gerald Celente is on the line with us. He is one of our absolute best guests. And you know, the only problem with Gerald is he just isn't he just doesn't express himself. He keeps it all bottled up inside. He just can't let it out. Gerald, founder of TrendsResearchInstitute, and our good friend. How are you, my friend?
Very good. Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and everyone else.
Thank you very much. Same to you, Gerald. I appreciate that very much. Okay, big question. Give us your best shot, my friend. 2013, people call me a pessimist. Should I be a pessimist? Should I be an optimist? What do you see out there, my friend?
Well, you know, I don't like to term things as pessimism or optimism. It's what is. And you go to a doctor and you get a diagnosis, and it doesn't make the doctor a pessimist or an optimist. It's the facts of what's going on. And when you look at the facts around the world, you know, it's not a very pretty picture. And you look at the way 2012 is going out. You know, I've been in this business. I'm going on my 33rd year here. And I can tell you, I've never remember a year ending with a thud like this. And I'm a political atheist, so what I say about Obama, you know, or when Bush was in, it's not because I don't believe in the whole, you know, political God thing, you know, so I'm not picking at them.
Right.
I'm just saying what is, and the what is that after this election, the presidential election, I've never seen an election end with such a thud. And you look at the world equity markets.
Yeah.
They voted right away. I think the Dow dropped over 300 points. The world equity markets all went down. If Romney had won, people would have said, oh, give him a chance. Although as I looked at it, you know, it was the same, just a different team. And when I looked at his plans, they came out empty. But people would have believed that, well, you got to give him time. You got to give him time. So that would have bought some more time. Obama, as you can see, and with Congress, they keep coming up with empty hands. So as we go into 2013, we're going in on a down note. We're going in at a time when they can't even solve a minor problem, and then you look at the other problems going on in the world. When you talk about the economy, look who just got elected in Japan.
Oh, yeah.
And what is he promising to do?
Yeah, that's right.
We want to dump more cheap money into the system, get that Bank of Japan pumping out more dough.
Infinite printing, Gerald, infinite printing.
And then you look over in Europe, and you have Mario Draghi, former vice chairman of the Goldman Sachs gang, European division. What is he saying? We will give you all the money, everything that you need to keep this going. He said those, you know, that's exactly his words, but damn close to him.
You know, that's an interesting background on Draghi. I had forgotten that. He is a Goldman Sachs guy, isn't he?
He is, as well as Mario Monti in Italy, or Mario Three-Card Monti. And he was a former international advisor of the Goldman Sachs gang. Oh, and by the way, you of course know that Mark Carney, who was the bank head over there in Canada, now picked to be the Bank of England's head, is also a Goldman Sachs gang guy. And you know, being that we're at Christmas time, and I think you're allowed to say one or two things about Christ. Maybe I'll say something first about retail sales to make it okay.
Okay.
You know, but you know, the only time that Jesus Christ becomes violent is when he drives the money changers out of the temple. And when you think about it, that's all this is. The world is being taken over by a new world order, and it's the banking order. So as we're going into 2013, the banks are in control. And what they're doing is they're debasing the global currencies. I don't care what currency it is, whether it's in China, whether it's in the U.S., whether it's in Europe, the U.K., or whether it's in Japan. They're all dumping cheap money into the system. So when you look on the financial end, as Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, one of our contributors to the TrendsJournal, one of the big pieces that he's writing for this new one coming out in a few weeks in the top trends of 2013 is bonds away. And he's saying that bond bomb is ready to explode. and he believes it's going to happen in 2013. You cannot keep interest rates at zero forever. They're going to have to start going up, and when they do, this thing is going to collapse. Because the only thing that's keeping this thing going are interest rates like nobody's ever seen in our lifetimes.
And there won't be any warning to this, too. It'll be a Tuesday night and a Wednesday morning, and it's not going to be like, oh, I think interest rates are going to start to go up. Because the minute interest rates start to go up, people will be dumping bonds, and they're not going to wait to see if it's going to go up 0.25% or 0.5%. They're going to say, my gosh, my investment in debt securities is at risk here, because there's no limit to how much interest rates can go up.
There's no, of course, exactly. You know, I was around in the 70s when mortgage rates were 21%.
You bet. I had a 22% car loan back in the late 70s with the Carter administration. Oh my heavens.
Yeah. You know, by the way, you know, and I don't give financial advice. I just bought 3 pieces of real estate. Not any real estate. I bought the Kingston Academy, the Franz Rogan House, and another 1760s building on the most historic corner in colonial Kingston.
I'm on your website right now. Those are beautiful buildings.
And the reason you know what I'm paying for a loan?
What's that?
3.25%. This is a commercial loan.
Unbelievable.
3.25%. They covered closing costs, and it's locked in for 10 years.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, and here's the funny part, too. When people are out there buying real estate, the one thing I think that they miss, you're buying it because you want to use that real estate. You're not buying it to turn around and flip it. I can tell by looking at it.
Yeah, no. I'm buying it for, you know, this is historic buildings, and I feel as though I'm a steward of them and want to leave them better than they are.
But if you were buying for investment, you'd have to realize that one of the worst times to buy was when interest rates are at rock bottom, unless you intended to do what you do, which is to keep it, because the value of that property will diminish exponentially as interest rates go back up, and people have to pay 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10%, which is what the historical norm was. This is not.
And the other thing is, being that they're debasing the currencies, I'm going to be paying this thing back with pennies.
You are, and that's the genius of not trying to get in and flip something. But if you want to hold, if you want to hold real estate
to flip it, in my life, you know, that's not what I do.
Now, I look at the currencies, Gerald. I look at the dollar and the yen. Really, all currencies, and it's like watching. Well, I can't use the old term. It's like watching short people play basketball. It's the tallest short person in the group. All the currencies are depreciating at the same time. It's very hard, since they are traded in pairs, to be able to say, oh, the currencies are up or the currencies are down. When you trade them against something of relatively fixed value like gold, like silver, like other things, you see how much currencies have truly depreciated. You can't tell when you compare them to each other.
You got it. It's exactly it. When you look at the price of gold and silver 10 years ago and you compare it to where it is now, you can see it in front of your face. The numbers don't lie. The liars lie. And the liars are the presidents, the prime ministers, the chancellors, and the Federal Reserve chairman, and all of the financial flacks on Wall Street. You cannot deny the truth. And the truth is in the numbers. Look even gold going down is still at 1660 basically.
Sure.
And what was it? You go back to 2000, and what was it? We were talking $250 an ounce.
Oh, you bet. Absolutely. And you look at how much gold has gone up just since I'm looking at my last 300% since 2004 when they introduced gold ETFs. That's a huge number.
That's huge. And by the way, I don't give financial advice when people ask. I have pension. I have a pension plan.
Sure.
I just closed my year out by buying more gold and silver.
Yeah. Is it because you're concerned that the government is looking for pension plans, 401ks, and IRAs to maybe fund their massive deficits?
Well, I'm just saying what I do with my money is I put it in gold and silver.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. And
I just bought more gold and silver.
And you can do that. You can do it perfectly legally as long as your plan allows it.
That's right. And so the other thing is that as we're looking at the world and what's going on and why we see more destabilization, is that there's a world war going on. And this is a big issue with the TrendsJournal. It's called War and Peace. And of course we're pushing for peace, because when you just add it up, and people aren't calling it what it is. Oh, there's not an Arab Spring over there. It's a takeover, man.
It is.
And it's the people that began it are all aced out of it. The Muslim Brotherhoods in both Tunisia and in Egypt had absolutely nothing to do with those overthrows. It was far too few had much too much money, and way too many had much too little. This is class warfare. Now it's taken over. It's an Islamic overthrow, the Muslim Brotherhood overthrow. I'm not deriding Muslims, and
sure.
please understand that. I'm talking about the fringe element, these crazies within it.
Well, look at Egypt. The citizens in Egypt, they are not all pro-Muslim Brotherhood.
No, exactly. But what I'm saying is, though, the radical factions have taken over. And the last election, by the way, when they just codified the Constitution,
right,
33% of the Egyptian citizens voted for it. That's it. That voted not for the Constitution, voted at all.
Yeah.
So this is a takeover. So anyway, you have a revolution going on in Tunisia, a revolution in Egypt. You have a civil war in Yemen. You have a civil war in Bahrain. You have in Greece, in Spain, in Italy, in Portugal, in Ireland, you have severe depressions, and you have millions of people taking to the streets. You name the day.
You know, Gerald, I'm sure that you get the same kind of criticism that we get. When we get criticism of this show, it's, all right, smart guy, you predicted the world was going to come to an end, and it didn't. See, the dollar's okay, real estate's turning around, everything is okay. My answer is always, look, I can see where we're headed, and I can generally see enough to let you know that it's coming. I can't tell you the exact day, and that's not our job. I don't try to give financial advice to people, and I know you don't either. How do you respond to, I'm sure, the same criticism that we get? Hey, you said the world was going to end and it didn't.
Oh, it's very simple. We could see the trends. We know where they're going.
Hence the name TrendsJournal.
Yeah, but what we can't see, and that we have no way of knowing, is what games are being played behind the scenes.
Yep.
And so when you look at what's going on, how do we know that, I got an idea, we're going to call it quantitative easing. Yeah, that's it. We're going to dump money into the system. How do we know that they're going to kill capitalism with a new name? We're going to call it too big to fail.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know that as we're all playing it straight, Barclays and UBS and all the rest are rigging the LIBOR rates? Oh, we didn't know they were doing that.
And what did we do? We whoever it was fined him like $1.5 billion. My God, the impact of those LIBOR rigging was so far beyond the fine that this bank paid.
Oh, it's not even close.
Not even close.
It's not even close.
Yeah.
So that when people respond like that, what, are you kidding me or what? Who's going to make this stuff up too big to fail? I got an idea. We're going to bail out all the banks. Yeah. Oh, and then we're going to bail out the whatchamacallit, those car companies too. Oh, and here's what we're going to do. We're going to have a thing called austerity measures. Yeah, we're going to give the banks the money that they lost, and we're going to tax you more for it so we can keep this game going. Oh, and then you're in Europe. I got an idea. The Maastricht Agreement, the Lisbon Treaty that established the Eurozone? Screw it. We're going to bail out countries, and we're going to keep printing money and buy their worthless bonds, even though it's in violation of those treaties. How do we know they're going to do that?
Yep. And I'm sure you've heard about the WMPs in China, the wealth management products. There's about 4 trillion of these things out there. They're basically collateralized debt obligations like they were in the United States. And half of them, potentially up to $2 trillion, are underwater and could fail in the short term. They're already beginning to fail in large numbers, and the Chinese government's faced with the same decision. Do we bail these things out? They're not guaranteed by the banks, but $2 trillion in anybody's economy would have a significant impact. Do we bail them out or do we let them fail? And they're not coming up with an answer yet. I wonder if they'll make the same mistake that we did.
Well, they are already. agree. The Chinese are lowering their standards for the banks. They're pumping more money into the system, and they're doing anything they can to keep it afloat. As I said, you name the nation, and you will see the bailout program. And it's all one big Ponzi scheme. And I believe, as Dr. Paul Craig Roberts does, that before this year is over, we are going to see a bond away. We're going to start seeing some real huge problems. As I said, who could have known that the U.S., the U.K., the European central banks, in full knowledge of the LIBOR and Euribor rates, that they were being rigged and would allow it to happen?
And Timmy Geithner. Let's not forget the fact that he was aware of it and said nothing.
Exactly. That's what I said. The central bank.
Oh, yeah, U.S. central bank. Yeah,
and Timothy Geithner was the head of the New York Fed.
Oh, absolutely.
Right, or that the central banks worldwide would invent money pumping schemes that dump trillions to prop up failing economies. And as I said, breaking their own laws by buying up worthless bonds and bailing out failing nations.
And you know what I say?
So when people ask us, oh, you didn't know that?
Well, I tell people all the time is that there's never been, as far as I know, and every expert I've talked to, there's never been a civilization in history that has begun to monetize their debt, that ever stopped monetizing their debt, or it ever turned out where that solved the problem. Every society that has started that has ended rather quickly.
And here's my fear, and this is what we're writing about. I've said this before, and I believe I said it on your show. History is repeating itself. You had the Great Depression. It was preceded by the crash of '29. We had currency wars, trade wars, and then World War. We had the Panic of '08. We are in the Great Recession/Depression. We have currency wars going on. You don't have to listen to me say it. You could listen to Guido Montega of Brazil and others saying those exact words. Matter of fact, you had Mervyn King, the outgoing head of the Bank of England, recently saying the same thing. Currency wars have begun because nations are lowering the value of their currencies, debasing them so they could export more of their product. Trade wars are already heating up. My great fear is they're going to lead us into World War III. It's already happening, and it looks like Syria is the next one to go. I was in 2000. You know, Mitt Romney, when he announced his foreign policy speech, it was at VMI, Virginia Military Institute. I was brought down to VMI in 2000 after I had written Trends 2000 and wrote about New Millennium Warfare.
Right.
I was the keynote speaker. People like General Anthony Zinni were on the panel after I gave my talk to discuss what I was talking about. And what I was talking about was New Millennium Warfare because generals are always fighting the last war.
That's right.
And the New Millennium Warfare, now let's say that I'm talking now to Mr. Assad over there on the other end of this phone, and I say, listen, Assad, you got to go, and I've had enough of you. And then you say to me, what, are you kidding me or what? Listen, you try screwing with me. You may be able to take me out, but you're going to be screwing with the wrong guy. And we have agents all over your country, and they have suitcase-sized nukes. They have biological warfare. They have dirty bombs. I wrote in the whole beginning of Trends 2000, it was the breakup of the former Soviet Union when I wrote this, and all of the weapons of mass destruction that were being sold on the black market. There's going to be a time when the United States, France, England, all of these countries that are getting involved in these colonialist pasts and recreating them, there's going to be payback. You saw what happened in New York with Hurricane Sandy. This is a Category 1 hurricane. It closed down most of the East Coast, up around New York to New Jersey.
That's
Could
right.
you imagine what would happen if a suitcase-sized nuke went off in San Francisco, if a dirty bomb went off in New York City, if biological warfare hit Chicago and L.A.? This country goes on stop. People are screwing around.